Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino's most vanity-driven project yet, ranking my own boss rankings from worst to best. If I don't do it, who will? Ever since my first Bloodborne boss ranking, I've made 16 of these glorious videos of varying popularity, and while it's technically a worst to best list, I think they're all at least not bad. I'll be judging them based on my own arbitrary and inconsistent rules like usual, so let's get it. Number 16, Dead Cells. The worst, but still perfectly acceptable, boss ranking in my repertoire is Dead Cells. The game only has 4 bosses, and the strategy for literally all of them is to have a shield equipped and throw down a billion traps. I spent the entire video pretty much finding 4 different ways to communicate the exact same rules of engagement, and this is definitely the least important game I've ever made a ranking for, which is supported by the lowest view count I've ever attained on one. Not that I blame you. Ironically, my favorite part of the video is the sponsor speech at the end, the only boss ranking I've ever put an advertisement in. I like to think I do them correctly, even though I haven't heard from the company in months. Number 15, God of War bosses. If there was ever a boss ranking done purely because it was timely, this is it. I came pretty close to scrapping the concept entirely, what with most of God of War's repetitive clone bosses being nothing like the original epic encounters of the PS2 era, but I had captured all the footage already and figured it would be a waste not to do something with it. So I trimmed the fat into 8 mildly distinguishable encounters and churned out a basic-ass boss ranking with 0 stakes. Nobody even got mad at me for my placements because they don't fucking matter. The video is sitting at near 70k views, a tiny fraction of what the much more widespread Valkyrie video accrued. Number 14, God of War Valkyries. About halfway into me playing the game for the first time, I decided the Valkyrie fights would be way more rankable than anything else, and focused on those, which was a correct choice, given that the Valkyrie vid has almost 10 times the views of the regular one. Rightly so, I might add, because the Valkyries are actually contestable, and something people would want to look up. My favorite part of this video is the comments where, despite me telling everybody why I pronounce it Atreus instead of Atreus, people tell me I'm wrong even though I told them I know that already and say it anyway. My issues with this ranking are that the footage won't true render into 720p because I downloaded it from my PC to my Mac and lost resolution along the way somehow, so the quality is bad. And I didn't beat Sigrun, the final Valkyrie, until after I already uploaded the video because I was too impatient to keep trying. Number 13, Crash Insane Trilogy. Joke-wise, is a pretty solid ranking in my estimation. The pure entertainment value is quantifiable. The only thing I missed was putting Dingodile as the hardest boss because I didn't know you could slide spin jump him thrice and end the fight in 20 seconds. On top of that, this is another boss ranking where none of the bosses are hard, and I mostly made it so I could officially complain about the Insane Trilogy's terrible hitboxes in a capacity people might actually see. I also lie about there ever being a Spyro boss ranking coming, because that was back when I thought I wasn't going to mentally ruin that game for myself. Number 12, Dark Souls. Timeliness was certainly not a factor here. I made this ranking after I made the Dark Souls 3 ranking as a 1-2 punch in an effort to increase my viewer retention after people watched the third one. It didn't work right away, but now it's up past 300,000 views, which is a hell yeah for my channel. It's still a supplementary boss ranking though for a game I didn't like playing. If you play Dark Souls out of order, you will regret it. Number 11, Bloodborne. So, there's no question this was the most popular ranking ever, and the first one I ever did, which I kind of don't like because it's also the worst edited and, to me, the worst aged. The quality is horrendous because I recorded it with the PS4's built-in recording stuff and I didn't know you could change the resolution. It's also the only video where my voice audio was recorded in iMovie, one section at a time, instead of separately all the way through in one go in GarageBand like I've done ever since, so there's no pacing and no crescendo of energy. Some of the clips are muted because I took them from my Let's Play series, and some have the volume too loud and drown out my voice. It's literally my first ever iMovie project, and I think that's very obvious when you watch it. Also, my joke delivery has vastly improved since then, as well as my actual voice. I mean, shit, go back and listen to it, the difference is astounding. All that said though, on the positive side, it's very meaty, it's a healthy amount of content, it's a passion project more so than most of my other rankings, and it's the original boss ranking of all boss rankings on YouTube. I was the first. Don't you forget it. Number 10, Salt and Sanctuary. I think every entry from herein is great, so it pains me to list some of these so low, but that's just a testament to the unrelenting quality of my videos. And if you disagree with that, you can get owned in a negative comment dissection video, bitch. Salt and Sanctuary is an amazing game, and my boss ranking of it is consistent and relatively uncontroversial, except for a Chester Bennington joke I had to throw in for my own sake. The game has enemies that float around hanging from nooses. What was I supposed to relate it to 3 days after the news broke? I didn't do this video for a long time because I saw that someone else had already. but then I remembered I am a conqueror and I plant my flag over other people's flags because they mean nothing to me. Number 9, Bloodborne DLC. The Bloodborne DLC ranking is what happens when you collect more than enough footage, but then through the process of editing, you accidentally erase too much footage, and thus have to repeat your footage over and over again to fill time. It's also what happens when you have jokes that are 30 seconds long describing an event that is 3 seconds long. I think this is one of my funnier videos, even if it's the shortest, and especially considering it chronologically happens right after my initial Bloodborne boss ranking, the growth is palpable. Show me another YouTube video where the guy says the phrase bubbly uterus candy. Also, the domestic violence joke about Ludwig being less likely to hit you if you're underneath him is solid, shimmering gold. Number 8, Hollow Knight. This ranking is flawed because it's missing several bosses, and at this point with all the DLC out, it's pretty age inappropriate. That said, the jokes were good, certainly good enough to be quoted by the Hollow Knight speedrunner during the Hollow Knight portion of Games Done Quick 2019. That's right, babies! Sunburned Albino is now canon at a major gaming event. Look for the Umu boss fight if you want to see the moment in question, but my big takeaway from this is that 2019 will officially be Year of the Albino. This is the year I will be launched into major YouTube gaming stardom. Mark all 12 months of your goddamn calendars. Number 7, Dark Souls 3. This video is a permanent reminder of how being lazy for a couple days can delay your career by a couple years. Dark Souls 3 marked the death of Sunburned Albino and the birth of the democracy. And all because the day Dark Souls 3 launched, I thought about a DS3 boss ranking and went, I don't need to do that right away. I am the sole proprietor of boss rankings after all. Don't sleep on boss rankings, kid, or you will be steamrolled by the invisible competition. I wish somebody loudly whispered that in my ear one night. But it's okay, because 2 years later I have 88,000 subscribers, which is less than half of He Who Shall Not Be Named, even though I named him earlier, but that just means I get to pave my way to stardom with a lot more pavement behind me to show for it. Number 6, Nioh. My Nioh boss ranking is what my Dark Souls 3 boss ranking should have been. Something I started immediately, worked very, very hard and long on, to a big payoff in the end. 684,000 views, pretty damn good. I was dead when I recorded the script. It was like 7 a.m. after my third straight all-nighter of grinding through the campaign. God, that game is so good. Nioh is so good. I never got bored of it. The only caveats to using your first playthrough as footage for a boss ranking is that you don't know everything, and in my case I didn't learn to take advantage of key pulses and stance changes until my second go, so some of the boss fights look amateurish. Still though, it's a great ranking. Even if I admit Nioh isn't that hard anymore, he'll still kill you with the double lightning, make no mistake. But Shima is way harder. Number 5, Organization 13 data bosses. When you trying to milk the Kingdom Hearts franchise for boss rankings, but don't want to do Birth by Sleep or Dream Drop Distance, the Organization 13 data fights in the 2.5 remix are set up perfectly for this and were just begging to be so ranked. God, yes. Number 4, Cuphead. 880,000 views, baby. This is the best example of how foresight and a good idea can launch your channel into the stratosphere. Cuphead is an indie game, and though it turned out to be a huge success, people questioned whether it was going to turn out as good as the concept made it look, and especially as a very difficult boss-only game, the audience it attracted was going to be niche. But difficult things attract crowds. Super Meat Boy, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, Celeste, difficulty breeds cult success when delivered in a quality package. Anyway, the point is it was a great idea to make this video, and it ballooned way beyond my expectations and was the fastest growing view count since my original Bloodborne ranking. Hell yeah. Number 3, Kingdom Hearts. For some reason, I decided to do this boss ranking on regular difficulty, rendering it virtually ineffectual from an advice standpoint, especially on the giant Ursula fight, but because it's Kingdom Hearts, it was still absolutely rife with joke material, and thus still created something monumentally worth watching for fans. It probably has the most zingers of any ranking I've done, and it's clear that I just love what I'm talking about. Number 2, Dark Souls 2. This is the best of my Souls rankings by far, in my estimation. Dark Souls 2 was my introduction to the Souls series and is the game I have the most experience with, having completed about a dozen playthroughs at this point, and it's no coincidence that the games I'm the most familiar with are the ones that create the best boss rankings. I've had years to internalize jokes about what happens in them, and when it's finally time to script it out, things just flow continuously from my brain to my keyboard. Also, I was literally paid $100 by a black guy who lives in Japan to make this video. Worth it! Number 1, Kingdom Hearts 2. The best boss ranking I've made by my own standards, and also the majority of people I pulled on Twitter about it, is Kingdom Hearts 2. It was done on critical mode, so a proper difficulty for ranking. It's also Kingdom Hearts, which means joke levels are at maximum. It's my second longest ranking behind the first KH1, which means it's meaty AF, and it's just perfect in every way. Following this pattern, you know Kingdom Hearts 3's boss ranking is going to be legendary, and I will make sure it surpasses everything I've ever done, provided the game itself has the right joke fodder. If that Hainer dropkick scene is any indication, I think we'll have no trouble, and I already know that one Toy Story boss is going to be easy money. Well, that's going to do it for this boss ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you're definitely already subscribed, but be sure to like that shit too. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino, and I'll see you guys next time.